All right, find your way to a seat. Find your way to a seat. We could let you mingle all night. I tell you, as a pastor, we just love seeing God's people just chatter and mingle, and it's fun to watch. So thank you for doing that. We are at our twice-a-year leadership forum. Again, we welcome those of you who are maybe watching later. That would be great. I recognize that when we met in November, it was a sweet spot for especially families and kids. So I know Monday nights at 7 o'clock is not good for youth or kids or families. We have some that got babysitters to be here tonight, so thank you for that. And we're glad you're here, but we hope that others can watch later online with our live stream to catch up. On the screen, I want you to look at the cross that's up there, and there's a bunch of words. Trevor Jost, who is behind the tech board over there, he punched in like a bunch of the words that showed up on November 5th when 300 of you gathered in our gym to do some initial contribution to what you feel God is leading us, or ideas. And he took that and put it into this, what do they call this? Word collage? Word cloud, thank you for that. Word cloud, we'll call it, in a cross shape. And the bigger words, right, Trevor, are the ones that showed up with more prominence, is that correct? So the bigger the word, the more it showed up. And of course, it's fitting that in the middle of the cross, Jesus' work for us would be people. He did it for us, and people are the center of, are the church is people. So that cross represents, and if you want to look later, maybe we'll show it and you can look at all the tiny little words that are up there as well, but it represents what you did on November 5th. I want to thank you, many of you, probably most of you may have been there on November 5th. I want to thank you for your time and energy and prayer, even since then, and then again tonight being here. That says a lot about our church, that people are engaged and actually want to come to a meeting at 7 o'clock on a Monday night. That means you care. You care about Jesus, you care about the church, so thank you for being here. Tonight we're just going to show some of the summarized work, the narrowed down of what was November 5th, things from you. A strategic planning team worked on that. You'll hear about that process in just a minute. I just want to kind of level set what we're going to do. Tonight you're not going to hear like, oh, this is the master plan. It's like a funnel. As we've been saying, there were 2,600 individual responses. You can imagine the mound of data that was. Every one of them was read and looked at. And we're taking that and we're narrowing it down. We still have more work to do. But tonight, at least, the themes and the major buckets that we're going to start plugging away at. And that's what we'll get to tonight. So I'm going to pray, and then we'll turn it over to Sarah, who's going to talk about the process, how we got here. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for our church. Thank you for the family in this room. You have brought us together, and you have united us for a purpose, to be your people in a particular place at a particular time. So tonight, Lord, we pray that your Holy Spirit would be among us. As you have been, so continue to be. Lead and guide us. We want to walk after you, not our own plans, not our own strategy. We'll use our reason to the best of our ability, but at the end of the day, Lord, we just want to follow you and be nowhere else but where you first lead. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to invite forward Sarah Raj. Sarah has done an amazing job in terms of getting us facilitating and getting us to this point. She facilitated the November 5th event. I want you to give a hand of appreciation to Sarah.
Thanks so much. It's really great to see you all. I'm not used to the lights, so I think I can see most of you. If you don't remember me, if you were here on November 5th, I was the one walking around kind of eavesdropping and then would ask you to like stand up and share your idea with everyone, even if you didn't want to. So appreciate everyone who participated that night and the great ideas that you all brought forward. So as we went through this process, I was completely blown away by the number of ideas we had. I don't think I knew what I had maybe signed up for when we had 2,600 ideas that we needed to sift through, read, sort through, organize, etc. And so I'll share with you a little bit of maybe how we got from 2,600 ideas that you all shared down to the 7 areas of focus that Pastor Jeff is going to share with us here in a few minutes. So Pastor Jeff talked a little bit about this funnel, which is kind of a normal part of kind of brainstorming and innovation, where you start really, really wide and include every idea that you can imagine under the sun, which is exactly what you all did on November 5th, sharing your ideas. And so we took those 2,600 ideas. We all kind of split up and divided and did some scribing, pulling that into an Excel spreadsheet. Anybody here love Excel spreadsheets in your day-to-day job? Okay, that's awesome. This was a pretty monster spreadsheet that had all of the ideas categorized. And so between Trevor and myself, we really kind of went through and I didn't do the algorithms, that was all Trevor. Trevor did the algorithms on what were the key words that were popping up, which is that word cloud that you saw with the cross, of those, instances where there was really common themes that were coming through, and that was really what we had shown in that word cloud. And so then in addition to that, we had started to form high-level groupings of what those ideas were. So we had 2,600 individual ideas, but at the same time, as you can imagine, there was a lot of similar themes that folks were kind of gravitating towards with, senior care or mental health. And so we ended up taking those ideas and getting them down to 57 idea groupings with a total of 830 ideas. And then from there, we went into continuing to kind of prioritize against the church mission, where we have strengths as a church and where we might want to focus moving forward, to get down to 348 ideas where the strategic planning team really delved into in a much closer detail to sit there and say, how do we look at this against our mission? How do we look at the feasibility of doing some of these individual ideas before ultimately getting to these 7 narrowed areas of focus, which we'll hear about in just a few minutes. And so kind of breaking this down in a little bit more detail, when we had the 2,600 ideas, we first had to go through and remove duplicates. And when I say duplicates, I am a stickler on making sure that if it is slightly different, it is not a duplicate. And so if you had a slightly different idea than someone else, we kept that idea in. But if it was exactly the same, we deleted that, knowing that it was already captured, right? And so we first removed the duplicates, and then from there started to add in those categories like I'd mentioned at this phase, where we're bucketing things related to mental health, music, enhanced worship service, maybe volunteering opportunities, green space, and some of those kind of high-level opportunities, real estate, right? We've got a lot of real estate here. How can we leverage that for more commercial opportunities? And so we started to group those, and then from there, the core team really identified 57 idea groupings with 830 ideas. So we came back together again and began to assess and prioritize at a high level what those groupings could do for the church, based on a few different criteria that Pastor Jeff is going to get into in a minute, but really it's what aligns to our mission, right, for more loved sent. How do we stretch ourselves and really kind of think about not only what our strengths are, but really stretching ourselves from a capability perspective in order to think about the future of the church. I don't want to steal his thunder, but he loved to talk about, Pastor Jeff, some big, hairy, audacious goals. Has anybody heard of that before? Yeah. So it's a phrase that is used, right, to really kind of stretch yourself in thinking about something a little bit outside of the box, outside your comfort zone, I would say. And so that was how we really thought about taking these idea groupings and then further assessing them. So we did get down to 13 groupings, which I would say I was pretty proud of us because that took a lot of work to get folks aligned on where we focus. But I think ultimately we were in alignment that made the most sense moving forward. And we got down to 348 ideas, which felt amazing compared to the 2,600. And so from there, we really just kind of further assessed them individually around how did it make sense against our mission, and then what was the feasibility of something? Is it easy to do today, or would it be something that would be more longer term? And so we started to assess those individual ideas, which really brought to light these 7 focused areas that we're going to be talking about for the future. You may be wondering what happened to all the ideas as we went through that funneling process. Did they just get left on the cutting room floor? Like, where are those ideas at? And so actually, for any of the ideas that we would look at more as, I'm going to call them enhancements, right? So maybe a slight tweak or doing a short-term opportunity or something within the means of the church today. Those ideas were all collected and brought forward to the broader church staff team to really dig into based on what they were. So were there specific childcare ministry ideas that were enhancements and we could work through? Were there specific worship ideas that we could bring through, or Bible study? And some of those ideas that were, I'm going to say, more near term and more enhancements, the team is continuing to look at a lot of those ideas. So a couple of examples would be, I'm going to probably get this wrong. There's I'm going to call it like a SME or expert series of like an educational series that's happening, and that has been happening for the last, I think, couple months. And so that was a spinoff of some of the ideas that came through, and then also some additional support that I think Dana is working on with our social media team. And so that has been a couple of ideas that came through for the enhancements. So with that, I will pass over to Pastor Clater, and he's going to share a little bit more about kind of what's anchoring us on these 7 ideas and what they are.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, okay. All right, I'm just sorry, I had to look at where I was going. All right, so our anchor, this is not rocket science, but when we look at 2,600 ideas, narrow them down, we have to have some criteria. One is that we just have to be guided by our mission. More people loved in Christ, more people sent into the world. So there's a world out there, as you know, that's desperate for identity and purpose. And we have this thing called identity in Jesus Christ. We have people just desperate to be known, to belong, to be forgiven, to be loved. And so Jesus, we believe, is the answer. The gospel is central. So that has to be central to what we do. That's our mission. And from that, we are sent, as you know, to live out the Great Commandment and the Great Commission. So whatever we do has to get to that. More people loved in Christ and sent into the world. As we talk about Little Antioch, that's simply like a model. That's sort of a concrete biblical model to give us a picture of what a loved and sent people and place could look like. And then the means. One of the things that came up in a lot of them, your responses were partnerships. Could we partner? And I was wrapping my head, like, is that a goal? And then it dawned on me, partnership is, and we're already doing a bunch of partnership things already, partnership is really not a final goal. It's really a means to an end, that we need to partner with others, agencies or churches, to do what God is calling us to do. I believe God is calling us to do something so big we can't do it alone. We can't be a standalone church. So partnerships give us the capacity to scale some things that we aren't doing yet already. So mission, the model, the means. Furthermore, looking at some filters that we use, and I want you to keep in mind too, of course, mission aligned, as I said, and values driven so that it reflects who we are. We don't want to do something that's not us. Second, what are we uniquely qualified for? So there are things that we have no business doing. I'll give you an example, and I don't want to demean the person that submitted this. My guess is the person who submitted this was younger, but this person, it's actually kind of a cool idea. We should host a Taylor Swift concert. That'd be huge. Could we handle 50,000 people on our campus? Probably not. But, I applaud that. We have no business doing that. We just don't have the capability to do that. So what are we uniquely qualified for? I'll give you another example that's closer. There was a lot of response, we'll get to this, about mental health. It's kind of a hot issue today that people talk about, and that could there be mental health services that we supply. I will tell you, we have no business doing mental health. That is serious. It requires a level of expertise. We have not done anything in that area. We refer as pastors, if there's a level after our initial pastoral counseling or care with somebody, we refer to a list of Christian counselors because we're trained in pastoral care and basic counseling, but not long-term significant counseling, and certainly we're not therapists. So that would be something we'd have to say, are we uniquely qualified for that? Or if we would, we'd have to have partners to do it. So what are we uniquely qualified for? In other words, what can we do that no one else or few people are doing? And then finally, what is, as Sarah mentioned, big, hairy, audacious goal? That's from the Jim Collins book, Good to Great. It's been out for a while, but in other words, it should be something that stretches us. So, a relocation to this space, that was a big, hairy, audacious goal. So here's the takeaway tonight, everybody. Are you ready? We're relocating again. Huh? Okay, I just wanted to see your reaction. But that was a big goal, and I think what God calls us to next will also be big. It shouldn't be just an incremental. So as Sarah mentioned, there are a number of just good ideas that we would call kind of process improvement or sustaining innovation, things that are just kind of good management. And we took those, and our staff has reviewed a lot of just good ideas. So if you had just a good idea, but it wasn't like, hey, this is like a huge, big goal that we could work toward, that was read, noted, and our staff has looked at it. Some of those things we're actually implementing and doing. It was a good feedback loop for us. Doesn't mean that it was unimportant. It maybe just wasn't kind of the big, hairy, audacious goal. All right, so before I go any further, I debated sharing this with you. I shared with kind of our elders and council last week, but I debated sharing this with you because I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't want you to perceive this as being arrogant in any way, but I think you'll get it. 2 weeks ago, I was with a gathering of our Missouri district. Our district president, Lee Hagan, gathered a bunch of individuals from, he's doing this in different parts of our state, essentially to kind of evaluate ministry across our district. Our district is made up of 290 congregations across the state of Missouri, as well as schools and other agencies. So he's trying to get a good assessment of the entire district. And he was having subgroups kind of rate congregations from a scale of 1 to 6. 1 would be on its last leg, probably near closing. A 3 would be, just making it. A 4 would be kind of moving forward. A 5 would be very healthy. A 6 would be a ministry hub, a church that has influence beyond itself. So it was kind of this awkward moment because he divided into circuits, and there were 3 circuits, South County, South City, and kind of Mid-County. We had to work through 30 congregations. There are 30 churches in just that little geography, South City, South County, and then kind of like the Kirkwood circuit, it's called. And so there's 2 pastors from each circuit kind of in this little huddle, and we're going through, and he literally just asked us to rate each church because we would know, and the district president wants to know where to put resources and what he can bring to each situation, and he said, just be honest. And so we're going through, and it was really easy to rate churches for whom there was no pastor from that church there. But then it came to like your church, and we're looking at like the kind of the stat sheet, all the bio of this church, and everybody's like, what do you're not going to say anything about your church. But this is why I was careful. I wasn't sure I would share this, but Jim told me to share it, and Pastor Paul told me to share it. We get around, and I was silent. When it got to Christ Memorial and Reliant, I was like, just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, and immediately, multiple voices, your church is a 6. You are a ministry hub. And it was like a no-brainer. And I say that not to inflate your head, although you're amazing and you're great, but here's what it means. We have a big responsibility. We're not just a church for ourselves, but also we've been given a place in the broader scope of things to give, serve, and influence beyond us. We do that already. We're a church in multiple locations. We do that already with Jefferson Avenue, mission partners, all kinds of things that we do, school associations. We have a complexity and a influence far beyond just ourselves. And the church really is an ecosystem. So no church should look the same. So we have to ask, what kind of church are we? And we should not be like Resurrection or Peace or Messiah on South Grand. And we should cheer them on in what they are built to do because we're an ecosystem. We should know uniquely what are we built to do that no one else or few are doing. And I would say what defines us, we are a frontier church. We have the unique ability to expand, influence, share, give away, innovate beyond ourselves. Not every church in our area can do that. There are other churches that do a lot of things better than us, to be honest. And we're not supposed to be good at everything. But our unique role is certainly mission-minded, outreach-focused, frontier, on the front lines, even on the edges and margins. That's our unique place to be. I share that with you for that reason, not to say how amazing you are, but you are. You are a 6. You're the best. All right. So those are the filters leading into some buckets. So, loved and sent. We're looking at it. Let's look at Little Antioch is here and there. Little Antioch is like a hub, a home base, but then sent out. It's like a harbor and then the sea. So we're going to divide it into those two categories. So we're going to start with love. This is sort of the home base. You might look at us here, our campuses, as sort of the loved part. Where are we rooted? And so these three rose up from all of your feedback, and they may not seem like rocket science, but that's a good thing. What that means is that we are building on things we already do, and we already do uniquely. And so these three buckets rose up: education and health and refuge. So I'm going to take each of those and just give you a little bit of a sketch of kind of what that looks like. So in each of these, okay, I'm prefacing a lot of things because I don't want you to mishear me. I'm going to shoot out some stuff under each of these buckets, and I'm going to say some stuff, and I don't want you to just say, oh, that's what we're doing. Okay, I'm going to list some of the ideas that you brought up or some potentials, partners. I don't want you to go and say, oh, Pastor Jeff said that Lutheran South is going to build a second campus at Christ Memorial, okay? But I might just throw that out there, okay? I might just say, just for fun, just put a grenade on the table, watch it blow up and see where everything lands. Because that's the stage we're in. We're just sort of in the dreaming stage. So I'm going to preface it by saying, imagine if, okay? So we're narrowing the funnel. These are the buckets. And now I'm pointing to where we may have to go beyond this to keep talking and whittling down. So education is kind of a no-brainer. Our church for decades, for its history, has been invested in kids and in youth and through the avenue of education. And so kids and youth remained in your responses a major emphasis and a concern for you, especially parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. Our church has a heart for the next generation. We want to maintain focus on that. One of the top responses, more specifically under education, was our child care center. That was one of the top responses. Now, under that, a variety of things. Expand our child care center, reach more kids, do more programming in our child care center. I'm just telling you, a lot of you said child care center. So, it doesn't mean that we can just do it, but imagine if we did a feasibility study and said, can we double the number of kids and families we serve? That would require expansion of space, expansion of staffing, which is difficult right now. But maybe we start with just a feasibility study. So imagine if. So I think we have to look at our child care center, do an assessment. Other things that have to do with education, Lindbergh High School down the road. Imagine if they needed some more space and we rent classroom space. And we have teenagers on our campus and we can couple that with youth ministry that reaches them throughout the week. Imagine if Lutheran Hour Ministries, for instance, in their building on Highway 40, they had a lot of vacancy in that building, and they have a lease now with Rockwood School District. So they're meeting a need in their community. Rockwood needed more classroom space. Does Lindbergh need more? Could we talk to them? Imagine if. Imagine if Lutheran South. Is there something that is needed beyond a new fine arts center? Could there be a partnership there? Imagine if a Concordia University, I'm talking to a Concordia University president at the end of the month. Imagine if there's a campus, an extension of one of our Concordia universities here in St. Louis, and we house it here. Imagine if seminary, CFNA, reaching kids, all wrapped around kids, youth, but education as a vehicle for that, and maybe adding on other components, kids and youth. So education, we have to do some more work to explore what's possible under that bucket. Next one, health. We're there already. What else could we do? As I mentioned before, mental health was a lot of responses had to do with mental health. Certainly physical health, which we do already, but mental health was huge. Now, again, we have no business in the mental health space, but imagine if we would need partners. So imagine if we contacted every Christian counselor and therapist in our area and built out a counseling center and kind of co-work space. We give them counseling rooms and they rent them an office space. And we become a hub. That's Little Antioch. It's a hub. We become a hub for Christian counseling in the St. Louis area. Imagine if partners, Lutheran Senior Services, I've had some initial conversations with the president of LSS. Imagine if, can we provide services to seniors? Could we provide adult daycare? Affordable senior housing is a high need. Imagine if, we got to talk to LSS. Imagine if, again, are you with me that I'm just throwing stuff out there? So don't go to the Lutheran Senior Services board and say, our pastor said that you're doing something, okay? Okay, we're just talking. Same thing with this one. Imagine if this afternoon I'm walking down the hallway, we had Maryville students in one of our rooms. There was a cohort, occupational therapy. They were here today. And we do already a partnership with Maryville University for occupational therapy. So imagine if there was a greater partnership and Maryville had an outpost here. And it's education, and it's health, and it's serving seniors in our community, and you just kind of check a bunch of boxes. And again, Little Antioch is a hub. It's a uniting place for all kinds of activity that overlap in the sweet spot of the gospel at the center, but education, health. Imagine if. So that's health. There are certainly a myriad of other partners as well. And actually later, Jim Jocks is going to ask you to record some things if you have ideas on other potential partners or expertise in these areas. Finally, refuge, a space for God's people to rest and retreat and grow. One of the things we heard a lot about green space or quiet space for reflection, space for training and growth. That was a response as well. So we put that all under the umbrella of kind of a refuge space. So Antioch was a hub, a place where the church was built up to go to the harbor and to go to the ends of the earth. So again, our building is rarely quiet. Reliant is rarely quiet because there's activity every day of the week. Now that's by design. We're one of those churches that is not used one day a week, but it's used every day of the week, and it's noisy, and that's the way we want it. But also, is there space? We don't have a lot of flexibility for again, space that could be for retreat, prayer, hosting groups, maybe hosting a conference or hosting a church from out of town or having a retreat ourselves or having a prayer chapel. Part of the mission requires deep prayer. If you want to find a place to pray and you come to church during the day, there's likely something happening even in the sanctuary. It's not a quiet space for prayer. So refuge or green space as well. Again, is there place for fellowship and for retreat and on our property somewhere? So again, there are a lot of things that fall under that refuge bucket, but that was something that we heard from you there. So, loved, the place, kind of the home base. These were three big themes that emerged. We'll call them big buckets: education, health, and refuge. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Now we go to sent. So there's here and then there's there. These are kind of four buckets that emerged from the sent side. This was a top response, maybe the top. I don't know. It was kind of between Child Care Center and this one. A ton of people responded, we want to be sent. But we don't feel we have the connecting points. We're not sure how. We're not sure. We don't know if we're equipped. We feel there's some gaps in knowledge, in training. We need some help connecting with, say, an organization or a mission trip. There's some gaps connecting the dots. And so imagine if we had a sent coordinator, somebody who would kind of assess, kind of have an assessment of all of you. Maybe there's a profile. Everybody fills out a profile. We know what skills, gifts, abilities, and experiences you have. And we start to match and deploy to our mission partners regionally, maybe mission trips, maybe internally service opportunities, anything from ushering to serving in our mission platforms like CMP, or engaging with Crave or our health center. We have the greatest asset in our church next to the Word of God and the gospel of Jesus Christ. The greatest asset is not money, it's not property, it is people. Our greatest assets walk on two legs. That's you. So, how do we deploy you? How do we utilize the strength of our people? As we go around St. Louis and you start to rate churches, there are churches that are good at various things. Our church is known by other people as the sent people. You're that sent church. We could be called worse, right? Yeah, we could be. That's fine. Well, let's own that. But we also need help in that. So our Love Sent Servant event helps us deploy, but as you know, it takes so much work just to start making connections. I'll give you an example. Our staff often gets maxed out because this is sort of an extracurricular activity that we end up doing because there's a need. And, hey, pastor, can somebody, we have a neighbor that needs some yard work done. Daniel, can you find some youth? Or somebody's moving and they need help moving and it's a poor family and they just need some hands. And we've got informal, a lot of it's organic. You all do that in certain ways, but it takes so much work to say, okay, how do we mobilize our people? If we had greater organization, infrastructure, and a system for deployment, imagine if there was a sent coordinator. All right, share, loved, and sent. We heard a lot about kind of sharing what we have, expanding a network that already exists in something that we have. Sometimes when you have a family, you're like, it's just my family, and you don't think much of it. Sometimes you annoy each other, and you're like, my family's kind of annoying, and we're not very special. But then somebody else comes and says, hey, they eat dinner at your house, and they're like, your family is hilarious, and they're fun, and we're so grateful you had us over for dinner. Sometimes our church is like that. You might not think much of yourselves, but there's something special in our church. And if you get around to other churches, you'll find they have their warts too, but there's something special in our church. And we get requests for things that we have often. I'd say at least once a week, I get a call from a pastor, a ministry leader, a former field worker, who wants a consultation or wants loved and sent. What can you share? Or how did you do this? And it's great. It takes some extra time, but it's great. People come to us for some resources. So is there a way for us to maximize that, to expand the network? Next one, plant churches. I would put this a little bit more broadly. Maybe not just churches, but maybe help start new ministries or partner to start new ministries or churches, or help revitalize a church that needs some help. So on the scale of 1 to 6, we're a 6. Could we help a number 3 in our area? Say, hey, we have some things we can walk with you. That would fall under that bucket. In the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, there's kind of regular updates, the reports come out. In our denomination, there are more churches closing than there are starting. So we are naturally a declining church body, numerically and church number-wise. That's just a fact. Can we be a part of pushing back against that? Can we help somehow, some way, to whether it's partnering or walking with, starting new things? We've done that already. We have a track record of starting a second campus. We are walking with Jefferson Avenue Mission in kind of a partnership. So we have a track record of this, and we heard from our people, we want to help more. We want to do more of that. Finally, margin for mission. I ripped this off from the Jesuits at SLU. They say, and maybe I've shared this with you before, there's a Jesuit saying, no margin, no mission. So at SLU Hospital, they're like, we can't serve the neediest if we aren't shrewd and we make some money So we want to be really shrewd with how we manage our hospital so that we have margin, so that we can serve those who don't have insurance or can't afford the health care that we offer. No margin, no mission. So we also need margin for mission. And so we want to retain, and we heard this in some of the feedback too, we want to retain some income generating mechanism yet, like we have with Incredible Pizza. Is it Incredible Pizza for the next 50? So is there a way to continue to leverage margin for mission? We do that also at Reliant, running that business at Crave, kind of helps cover some basic costs of the building. And so we're shrewd with our resources so that we can have margin for mission. I don't think we want to get rid of that because that allows us to do things that we couldn't even dream of if we have that extra margin. Furthermore, in the future of the church, less and less churches are looking for second, third, fourth streams of income. No longer can you just rely on plate offerings, or you could just for maintaining ministry, but we want to say we want to do even more. So is there margin for mission? So the center of the bullseye might be something that hits all of this. Could there be a renter who's also a mission partner, who also helps send our people to it? I mean, we're looking for those kind of partnerships that somehow hit the center of the bullseye. We can check multiple boxes and do a bunch of things together. All right, I'm done preaching. I'm going to pause for a moment, and I just whipped through kind of again, just to set you. These are themes that arose from that feedback. These are things that could stretch us. They're things that we are uniquely qualified for, and they're areas in which we can maintain our unique mission focus: more people loved, more people sent. I'm going to turn it over to Jim to lead us into a next section where we'd like to not just have a monologue, but engage a bit. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Pastor Jeff. All right, how does this work? All right, someone took care of me back there. Thank you. All right, so a couple items. We want to engage you all in some questions, and I'll get to that in a minute, but that's a big part of tonight, having that conversation. But I want to go back to, don't change the slides, but to the Sent slides. The Sent coordinator, council is going to take that up. We meet next week and start having conversations about getting that job description put together, seeing if we have the funds in this fiscal year to start recruiting that position. If not, we would wait till the next fiscal year to put the money in the budget for that position. But council is going to be pushing that one forward to make that happen. The other thing that council is going to start working on is on the Sent part, where Pastor Jeff talked about, people, other pastors have said we're a 6. There's something very special about what we're doing. And so we're going to start talking at council about setting aside funds to equip the pastors to basically continue to go out, but in a greater sense than they do today. And so we want to put money in there that would enable them to travel, maybe enable them to hold events here. Some folks have said, well, folks can come here and learn from us, and that's true. But there are a lot of churches that would want to learn from us that don't have the funds to even send their pastor here. So could we use our funds to help those pastors find their way here? So council is going to start having that conversation about, what should that amount of money look like to do that well? The thing I'll say right now is assuming that moves forward, and I'll be shocked if it doesn't, that means we may not have our pastors here during the week to the extent we have them today. So folks have to be prepared for that as they would be out and about visiting other churches, other organizations. They'd be here obviously on the weekends with the sermons and so forth. But there's something to be prepared for, that if you think your pastor might be here or pastors might be here Monday through Friday, that may not be the case going forward as they're out fulfilling, again, trying to share with folks some of the things that we do well and help them to do that as well. So let's get into the questions. You all should have picked up a pamphlet as you came in that the first page is a summary of what Pastor Jeff went through. Just go to the second page. And again, I want to repeat what Pastor Jeff stated. These are not the things we're going to do. These are ideas that you all shared from November that are under those buckets, and Pastor Jeff touched on some of those, but we thought we'd put it in writing just to help you think about that as we get into these questions. Some of the things I want to touch on is, we talked about the senior services, homeless services, skills training. Transportation was a big item that came up, helping folks come to our church and helping folks get to appointments that they may have a need for, doctor appointments, groceries, whatever it might be. So transportation was a big item that came up a lot. Again, repeating what we've said, but it's so important. 2,600 ideas, and they were all great ideas, but we all have to recognize it's not possible for us to do all 2,600 ideas. We hope to do a lot of them, but just because your idea isn't listed in the presentation, it doesn't mean it's not being acted upon. It doesn't mean it's not being reviewed. We are looking at all of those ideas, and so, but again, it's just not. It's not going to be possible to do them all. I just want to put that out there. That's my little Jimmy Raincloud part, right, Pastor Jeff? That's my nickname. It is my nickname. Another thing that I think is important is these ideas that we want to pursue, they do look to take maybe us to the next level, but it's also a part of bringing folks to know God, right? We do all of this stuff and we've not created a mechanism or mechanisms for folks to come and know God, then we've probably missed the boat on that. So it's a both and, right? There's things we can do to equip ourselves to go out there, but it's that going out there that's so important so we can bring folks to get to know God. And I also want to just emphasize, because we talk a lot about this parking lot and IPC, or Incredible Pizza next door, and Pastor Jeff touched on it as well. I mean, this is Reliant, this is Jefferson Avenue, this is anything off of this campus. So don't look at these questions and think just, the Christ Memorial Campus, because we're shorting ourselves. It's beyond that we've got to keep thinking about that as well. So go to the next page, and we're going to engage you all in some conversation. And I was thinking about kind of a warm-up, and Pastor Jeff's reference to the Taylor Swift concert kind of gave me an idea. So with the folks around you, just take 1 minute and discuss, do you think Taylor Swift will make it from Tokyo to the Super Bowl to see her boyfriend play or not? Yes or no? Oh. All right. That got more discussion than I thought it would. All right. So the first question on this page is, of the 7 areas that we covered tonight, which of those areas most excite you and why? So take a little bit of time. I want you to jot your thoughts down on the page, and then just start having some dialogue with folks around you. And I really want you to write these down, because I want to capture all of these sheets at the end of the night, so we can pull it all together and continue to analyze everybody's thoughts and feelings on this. So just take a few minutes and look at that. Which of these 7 areas most excites you and why?
Yeah, we joined, when I came, she didn't come right away, so I kind of, every Sunday was visiting.
All right, I'm starting to hear a hush start to go across the room, so it sounds like folks may be wrapping up their conversations. So, if anybody is a brave soul and would like to share some of the conversation they had in their group, I would love to hear from you. Just raise your hand, and Sarah has a microphone, and she will come to you. Kathy Poppets back there has her hand up.
Hi. Hi, I'm Kathy Poppets. Oops. And I'm on staff here in the office. I am most excited about the volunteer coordinator or the Love Sent coordinator. We've got a small mechanism of that right now that is called the Helping Hands Group. But as many times as we put it in the bulletin to join the Helping Hands Group, we don't get the people on the group. And then we get all the phone calls for pickup. So we've got about 5 or 6 ladies that are in facilities right now that would love to come to church, but they have no way of doing so. And so to actually activate our people, and like our group had said, also, there are people that are willing to do these jobs, but they aren't equipped to do the job. So connecting those people with those that have already been sent and done projects so that we can equip them as well.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to share some of the conversation they had?
I will come to you. You just put your hand up high.
Dave Shoddy, he waited till you walked away, Sarah.
I gotta get my steps in.
Well, I like the idea about the expanding the early child care, but the thing that sort of hit me about that is to create some kind of a bridge from the early child care to Feed Green Park. Because it seems like that sort of matches up with what Pastor Jeff said about, sort of commonalities between different organizations and things. And I don't know, maybe we do more of that than I think, but it just seems like maybe from both sides, maybe from our side to Green Park, or maybe even getting them here, to meet with some of the people that are in the early child care to help maybe pull them over or sell them on Green Park.
Excellent, thank you. All right, anybody else? Did I see it?
Thank you. You got a few items. Thinking of mental health, that would highly recommend an organization called NAMI, National Association of Mental Illness, that is well equipped, and if the contacts can be made, may be inclined to come here and use our facility for their 10 to 12 week course to assist families in learning about medications, learning how to deal with their loved ones and their mental issues that they are going through. And sort of like what we do with the health center already, having the hospital do programs here. So I think that maybe that would be worthwhile to look into, since that was a big thing on this survey. The other thing I would like to see, or highly recommend, is that we do have a little chapel, because sometimes you need a place to pray, or a small wedding, or a funeral, or a group. You need that quiet, you need that privacy, which we don't have in that sense. Hospitals do have that, and or nursing homes, some of them have that. Maybe we could consider that as well. Plus, I think we also need a Love Sent coordinator to put this all together, to be able to contact and help us reach out in different ways. And then finally, to continue the mechanism, bottom line, yeah, we have people, but it's going to take income. We have to keep that income coming to be able to produce some of these things that we're talking about.
Yeah. Yep, thank you. All right, why don't we go, oh, yeah, Chris.
Can you raise your hand again? Okay, I thought so. Just want to be sure.
I thoroughly agree with what has been said regarding Kathy, the other gentleman, regarding basically, I put down community partnerships as a vehicle to expand ministries through collaborations, i.e. counseling services, senior services, skills training, transportation. A whole bucket load could go under there. And yes, we have space in our parking lot. So I strongly suggest that we pursue that and see the possibilities that are out there. We're members of various nonprofits, and one of them is Oasis. And so that's something that might be considered. And like the gentleman said with Maryville, and then you have LSS and then LFCS and NAMI, and it can go on, but that would be a huge mutual benefit and a huge outreach ministry. I also put as a second one as grow relationships with early child care families. Last night I had a conversation with a woman in her young 20s regarding a personal need that we had, and she just got baptized with her 2 girls. And we just started talking about Christ Memorial, and I mean, I could have been on that phone 4 hours, because I've been a member, a lot of people know, since I've been 3. So, but it was really spiritually so rewarding. And I guess with some of the early childhood care families and also other young families, they really don't know the total history of our church and the sacrifices, personal sacrifices that have been made. And I think we might be able to bridge that gap a little better. Maybe they would be assigned to an older member or whatever if they would be willing to, it would be good to bring them along and have them understand and appreciate where we've been from. And now these same people that have sacrificed and where we're going.
Yep, thank you. All right, why don't we go to the next question, and that is, do you have expertise or experience that will help us further explore one or more of these 7 areas? As you're thinking about that, the task force, if I can call it task force, the strategic visioning group, that they've done an amazing amount of work, but it's virtually impossible for that group to take this to that next level of assessing the feasibility, viability of all these ideas. So we need you all. We need your expertise in these areas. And so that's really what we're trying to get at here. This is that opportunity for you to put your name on this piece of paper and say, hey, I've got a background in ABC, and I think that might be valuable in this process. And so we really want to capture that. And I want to take a second to acknowledge the Strategic Visioning Committee. So from the elders, Dan Knost is on there, Trevor Jost is on there. From council, Katie Hodling and myself are on there. From the staff, Pastor Paul, Pastor Jeff, and Dana are on there. And then Sarah as our quarterback and coach, both on this thing. So those are the individuals that have been running with this. But we, even bringing council in and bringing elders in, we still are not going to have the horsepower we need to really assess all these opportunities. So that's where we need you guys just to take a few minutes, write down your thoughts as to where you think you could help in this next step of really looking at the viability of these areas. And then have some conversation with the folks next to you, because your thoughts may spur them to go, oh gosh, I've got that kind of background as well in this area. And they can just kind of fill out their notes on their page as well. So again, just take a few minutes to work through that.
Gail has I'm a CPA, but I'm a financial advisor. So I was out in Fort Worth for about 10 years, and then I joined Florida. So I'm taking a lot of his folks and I'm excited to sort of see that through. So yeah, it's good. Stuff like that. And then, but I majored in theology in college too. So yeah, minors in Hebrew and Greek, the normal route. You got a real job. Yeah, Gilbert Meilander. Oh yeah, that was a great class. That's what I'm going for. His doctorate was actually on a Lewis scholar. My favorite class was his class. Looking into that. Even Jesus has reference. So I really know that. But yeah, he was my mentor. Yeah, he did. And Walt Warner actually ran a really great meeting. He was good. And this guy came to Christ Memorial when I was a senior in high school. When I came back from college, one year we did some donuts in the parking lot. The church staff called the police. Yeah, this big parking lot. I like that stuff myself. Yeah. We went to West Newtown.
So like to drive with me. No, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Driver, so.
I'm a quick driver. I actually find that internationally, they drive a lot better. Everybody's paying more attention because everybody's driving really crazy. So that's actually a good thing because then it's not like people are on their phone. Oh, they're actually paying attention. Yes.
Not my circus, not my phones. Not anymore.
All right. So this is the awkward opportunity for you to talk about yourself. Is anybody who would be willing to share any of their own kind of personal expertise or passion that they would like to bring to this process?
So my children both go to Green Park, and they also went to the Child Care Center. And as a parent who has come out of the Child Care Center, who actually became a member because of the Child Care Center, I have seen some gaps, and it's not like huge ones that make you go, oh no, but it's just basically community outreach gaps. When I was at Christ Memorial, it was really Missy Meyer who kind of took a personal liking to me and directed me to the church itself because of just kind of where I was in my own personal life. But that doesn't happen for everyone. And I was very blessed to have that connection with Missy, but there should be somebody that has that connection with everyone over there. And Daniel does a great job of that as well. But again, that can't all ride on Daniel's shoulders. And there should be somebody, I think, that kind of has the experience with both schools, Green Park and Christ Memorial, and even Lutheran South, that can kind of be that feeder, like somebody was saying earlier, to just kind of help with the kind of transition from either place, you know.
Yeah, thank you. It's so important to be able to do that, yes. Yeah.
I'm coming. Jim, we need 2 runners.
You're getting your steps in, Sarah.
One of our members of our group didn't want to say this, but I think it's good to say in terms of looking at what we're doing here and just stop and think about what's happening in the city, and that most of these discussions could happen around Reliant, Crave, Jefferson Avenue. And if we think in terms of past the footprint of those places, a lot of vacant property and a lot of need. So if we were to end up looking at childcare in the city or in Jefferson Avenue, just take any one of those and then always ask what could happen there. That was a good idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm a principal, so my husband will tell you that I like to hear myself talk and kind of take control. So I'm a principal at Seckman High School in Imperial, Missouri, and the education, I don't know, it kind of really speaks to me, and also mental health. So I'm trying to, there's a ton of different things. I love the Early Child Care Center and Green Park. My daughter goes there. But I have a heart for teens, and I think that they are forgotten a lot of times. And so one of the things I try to do is I have a lot of parents that have no idea how to deal with their teenagers, or grandparents that don't know how to deal with teenagers, and that's my whole job, is dealing with teenagers. Also, I am a certified instructor for teen mental health first aid as well as youth mental health first aid. And I do agree with Pastor Jeff, but I also disagree with him. No offense. Mental health, I think a lot of times we think mental health, we can't help with it because it does require a lot of intense therapy, which it does. But most of the cases that we are seeing are teens and young adults that just need to be heard. They just need to know that someone cares about them. And so that is something that we can do. I'm also thinking about, we're finding more and more broken families. Kids coming from single-parent households is actually the norm, as opposed to, a stable, two-parent home. So my husband was actually, he's not here, so I'm throwing him under the bus kind of. But he, like men leading young men, it's a huge problem that we're seeing. Not only they don't know how to treat women, but they don't, they just really don't understand anything. They don't know how to do yard work because a dad's never taught them how to do it, and different things like that. So mentoring, another thing is we have a huge dropout population. So GED programs and Missouri Options is definitely something we could run here. And you can't do anything without a high school diploma. You don't need college necessarily, but a high school diploma, and that's a huge thing, especially after COVID. We just lost kids. And so, and then another thing, no one wants to become a teacher anymore. It's an incredibly difficult profession, but if we could somehow build up our teens who want to be teachers, so almost like pre-teens or pre-teachers, and then help them through and encourage them, especially through that first 5 years of being a teacher. I will also tell you, it's very difficult being a Christian educator in public schools. So, encouraging that and building them up that way. I don't know, I could talk for hours, but anyway, that's that.
Thank you.
So we were just talking with Melba and talking about the different tiers of senior services and support that needs to be done, within our congregation. So we have a lot of seniors, and Melba brought up her situation, having a house, needing lawn care, home repair, things along those lines. And we've got community groups that are always looking for something to do, project-wise, so sorry about that. Project-wise, looking for projects that they can do. And then we got the youth who are always looking for service hours and, going back to the last conversation about mentoring the youth and getting them involved and getting them outside and getting them, doing that physical labor of helping out, and then put it all together, and you got this membership or mentorship. The people that we're working for can help mentor the youth. The community groups are there helping, mentor the youth as far as the work goes. It's kind of a group that everybody's helping everybody else. And it just really goes back to that coordinator. You need somebody to put all this together. So.
Thank you. Ashlyn over here on the.
I'm so glad that, was it Chelsea that just spoke? Yeah, so I'm an adult instructor in mental health first aid. So between you and me, we got it covered. And so I would be willing to share my expertise and training for that as well with our adults. And then I'm also speaking about Maryville. So I've been working with my students, bringing students here since 2007, and would love to continue that partnership and expand it. OT is not the only game in town, although I love it. We have physical therapy, we have speech language pathology, and so I really can see us partnering strongly with the Walker College of Health Professions to bring students here for learning opportunities to support the health center and expand our programs that way. So I'm all in on that, and I kind of know somebody else that's in that situation too.
Is his name Bob?
His name is Bob,
Okay.
and he is all in as well, so.
So what I'm hearing, I don't want to be too presumptive, but so I've got Bob, Ashlyn, and Chelsea. If you three, within a week, could bring us the plan, that would be awesome. Is that enough? Is that too much time? Oh, I thought it was a violin you were doing. Oh. All right. Let's go to the next question.
Can we do one
Oh.
Okay, really super quick. So I don't really have any expertise, but I will say I work at an early childhood center, and we expanded, and it's rather difficult because we cannot keep or have enough staff. So that's a very big issue to consider. But I do like the idea of providing childcare in areas that are like other campuses that we have or something like that. And then just, I like what Chelsea said, and Ashlyn. And yeah, okay.
Good, thank you. Sarah, right over there, Pastor.
If they'll have me, I'd be willing to join with the mental health group. I won't qualify myself as an expert, but a retired pastor of 40 years, and has dealt with members in a whole community in this area in central Illinois. And so I'd be willing to try, and if it works out, great. If the group says, Paul, you don't have it, that's fine with me too, as well. And I would also love to see, as we have the Love Send Coordinator, I'd like to expand that, a Love Send Coordinator chaplain. The reason being is that our professional staff here or others might need that person that's set apart from the pastoral staff here, that the staff can go and talk to that person privately and confidentially and get the help that they need. We have to keep our leaders strong. Mm-hmm. And so that's a whole nother area as well that could be looked at. What are the parameters and what can we do to accomplish that as well?
Excellent, thank you. All right, let's look at the third question. And some of you have touched on this already with some of your comments. But the third question is what partners do you think could join us in making these areas of focus a reality? It doesn't have to be an LCMS organization. It doesn't have to be a not-for-profit. It doesn't have to be a company. It could be a person you know. So we're just looking to capture some names and company names and so forth on here. So if you just take some time, jot those down, and share again amongst yourselves for the next few minutes. Thanks.
We're not too far. No, I know. And it's just looking for mentors, man. I understand. You know what I'm thinking now? We got lunch like 4 o'clock. You must have just met with the SLU guys. We were big on margin. And you've got a lot of margin. At that point, I had a lot of margin because I was good at my job. But didn't put too much on me. And I did have money. But now I'm taxed. I'm pretty flexible.
I'm seeing a lot of folks just kind of looking out across the room, so I'm going to gather you've captured your thoughts on this one. Anybody want to share any additional? Lauren does.
Just a thought about retreating and being able to get out. Camp Wartburg is very, very obviously near and dear to my heart, but it's also very close. It's 30 minutes away. It's somewhere that would partner with us to house pastors if they were to come in to do a conference. It's somewhere where they could actually have a conference. I'm sure that they would work out pricing and everything with us. The winter months are not super heavily attended as far as retreats go. Not to say that that's a fantastic time, January, February, early March to have something like that, but it is a place where I think would be a great benefit. We already use it for confirmation and things, so just a thought there.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you. Anybody else want to share something they captured? Yeah.
I think it was Ashland that maybe mentioned physical therapy also, and many of you maybe know that my son Brent is a physical therapist. In fact, I know several people here at Christ Memorial have used him, have been referred to him. But anyway, he's the site lead at the SSM Physical Therapy just on the other side of the buildings there. So it's literally, you can almost walk to the church from there. So anyway, I know it's already being done some where people are referred to him, and we aren't even allowed to hear about it for HIPAA laws and everything, but a lot of people tell us about it, so I know it's being done to some degree. But I think that's a good partnership to keep up and a good connection.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I'm always hearing people talk about the funding is so much of a part of this. And I'm thinking, I don't want to throw any particular company under the bus at this point, but we'll just say there's a large rental company in the neighborhood that we see advertisements and people have used their rental moments. Maybe we can get the donations that would jumpstart some of these activities, such as maybe transportation. We need somebody to either purchase a brand new vehicle or give us a pretty good shape one, maybe even has a handicap accessible type functions to it so that we can get a wheelchair in it and so forth and so on. And think of some other things where that first donation jumpstarts it, but then the funding to maintain it over time, but we need that kickstart.
Yep, thank you. Is that right here?
We talked about Maryville, but maybe community colleges. They've got lots of great programs where nursing, childcare, and then the other big plug I'll put in is there's some, we talked about green space a little bit. There's some wonderful organizations in St. Louis that will help you get started, and then you can feed your neighborhood, produce the product, and get it out. So there's some great, I can't think of all the names, but I've just kind of put places that have these organizations. But community colleges are great connectors also, because we've got a lot of them in the area.
Okay, thank you.
And then that brings the non-Christian audience in, if you want to call it that.
Yep, thank you. All right, why don't we move to the last question, which could be a little dangerous. Does anything we talked about tonight surprise you, and why? So this is not meant to reopen up, hey, my one idea out of the 2,600 wasn't listed tonight. This was basically, is there something big that you thought we would talk about that we didn't? Is there a component to the 7 that you thought you would have heard us talk about, but we didn't talk about as a piece of one of those 7? So take a few minutes, jot those ideas down, have that conversation with the folks around you.
It's hard. Like, no one can do a lot of things just don't say. No one just that's always bad. Sure. We don't complain.
All right. Who would like to share if something was a surprise to them tonight?
For me, it was the deployment of pastors. I'm not opposed to the idea, but for our congregation to stay healthy, we need healthy pastors, and I don't want to see them get burnt out going other places. So, I mean, I think we need to do this on a limited basis. We need to talk to the pastors and see how much they feel they can do, because they also have families and they have congregation responsibilities. So that was just kind of a shock to me tonight to hear that.
Thank you for saying that. And let me be very clear on that. I just wanted to point out that there is that possibility, but this is going to be driven by the pastor. So council is not going to say, Pastor Jeff, you've got to be on the road 75 days a year, right? As much as Bobby would love that, because she gave me a bigger number. This is going to be singularly driven by the pastors. We just want to equip them and say, if you want to do this, right? If there's an opportunity that you want to pursue, we want to create the capacity for you to do that, So, so thank you for bringing that up, because this is not going to be some sort of a mandate that council is just basically saying, you guys, this is your opportunity. If you want to go out and do this stuff, we want to create the capacity for you to do it. Anything else? Ooh, Brett here, and then there's one in the back.
Yeah, Pastor Jeff said we should have Dave & Buster's move in next door, and that really surprised me. So, just kidding, just kidding. No, what really surprised me was that all the participation tonight, and everybody's really invested and bought in. That encourages me a lot. So thank you guys, and also Chelsea, I really liked what you said about young men, young boys. They need men to look up to and leaders. And I think we could do that better too, so that resonated.
Sorry, I really hate talking in front of people. This is not my gig.
You can turn around and look at the wall if that would help.
I guess something that surprised me was, and actually I'm not surprised, I love that we're dreaming and I love that we're throwing out new ideas, and I hope we can, do many of them, if not all of them. I also think it would be great to reflect on the programs that we currently have, mainly connections, youth, confirmation, the things that we're doing, and how can we do those better?
Agreed.
And support our staff, and just maybe the numbers. I'm not convinced we have a very good ratio of members to attendees, like adult Bible class, kids Sunday school. I think there could be more bodies in the classrooms. So.
Yeah, thank you.
And I don't know how, but I just think we can work on that. So.
Anybody else? Okay, so it's really important that we capture your thoughts. So if you had a chance to fill everything out to your satisfaction tonight, that's great. You could leave that with me. I really want your name and contact information. I'm not going to use it to come after you with all sorts of stuff. But if there's a comment you made that I'm not quite sure, or the task force is not quite sure what you meant, we want to be able to loop back with you. If you've stated on here that there's an area that you think you could help with, obviously we need to have your contact information for that as well. So please put your name, any kind of contact, phone number, email on here. If you're not sure, you're satisfied that you've had a chance to really think about it and respond to this, go ahead and take it home tonight. Would love to get it back by February 16th. So again, the task force can start looking through everything. There's I don't know if everybody's familiar with it, but there's a mail room, which is the last doorway on the right as you're leaving out of here from this hallway to my right. There's a bunch of mail slots. One of them's tagged President. It's all the way at the end. Just put your piece of paper in that slot, and we'll make sure we capture it with everybody else's comments. So again, if you're not comfortable that you've had a chance to really think through it all tonight, take it with you. For those folks who are online, I'm trying to think how we could get this to them. Dana.
Fill this out as well. If you write like me, Chicken Scratch is hard to decipher, so you can type your stuff in. And people on the link, or anybody that missed tonight or the live stream.
How is it identified on the link, Daniel?
Dana's going to handle getting it communicated out.
We'll send it out via email.
Okay, all right. We're going to get this emailed out to everybody as well. So if your handwriting is really horrible, you can type it up. But we're happy to try and decipher handwriting as well. So if you've got it done tonight, please leave it with me tonight. That would be great. Pastor Jeff has one more thing that he would like to speak with you all about.
All right, let's thank Jim for facilitating. Thank you, Jim, for your leadership. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to end the live stream at this point. Say goodbye to those who are maybe watching this now or later. Record it and say goodbye to our live stream folks. If you're a member of our church, you got a letter.